Da, dun, da, dun, da, 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 da.
You have a feeling going in with certain groups upon first impressions, at least I've experienced this, and I don't know if anybody else could relate, but I consult a wide variety of names on this channel in regards to music talents, and I certainly have a built-up list of not only many of your recommendations, but artists I found in passing it by name that I would like to establish a first impression to, publicly, and perhaps a familiarity with at some point down the road, God willing. But sometimes you come across a name and there's just something attractive with it. That you're, maybe not necessarily just the name, but this feeling that you get where you're like, okay, I'm going to like this. And that was the case with Silent King. Not only did I have a pretty interesting foundation going into them because it didn't follow the path I normally take in regards to gathering names of fresh artists, and that they weren't necessarily provided a recommendation in association to another group I spotlight here, and they weren't, maybe a randomized play in regards of on YouTube, some point listening to an established artist, and then suddenly these, other artists come in, and these are tunes you never heard of before. It didn't take that path, and it wasn't necessarily of my own volition that I, found them. It was through an Instagram follow on my attached pages. I'm like, that doesn't oftentimes happen, but, I'm like, hey, as a thank you, it was my intention upon that to be like, hey, I'm going to go spotlight your group once I found out this was an emerging talent. Again, going off memory here, I believe they're an Oklahoma-based Christian metal group that's certainly emerging, and they deserve the attention that they've gotten at this point. I mean, they've got like over 1,000 followers on Instagram, a developing audience of about 52 people on their YouTube page. They deserve a lot more than that. Hopefully, if I can manage this, and this is my intention as I embolden the focus of music on this channel, which has been a long-time aspiration of mine, again, music being such a devoted love of my life, in accordance to other entertainment forms I also enjoy, from time to time, music is that dominant interest. I love being able to have that enjoyment in experiencing great artists with you, whether they be familiarized talents to me with new tracks and new songs and projects available, or perhaps fresh talents that you and I perhaps are both getting an introduction to. Maybe not always. Maybe some of you are approaching it being like, oh, I'm already familiarized to them. If so, more power to you. And I love that experience as well, providing, look into somebody who, again, is adopting a fresh lens, right? And maybe, again, for some of you, though, you're taking the path that I have, right? And we're enjoying a song together very much on a first impression. Silent King was that, going in with The Curse. I previously covered that song. That was their first debut track, I believe. They're currently working on an EP, from my understanding. This is the second of the works we're about to consult. But The Curse had a wonderful bass line, in my opinion. Very mainstream rock metal. It definitely has that appeal. It parallels a lot of our artists that are familiarized talents on my playlist that I routinely enjoy. But the elements of what they played around with, there's a great lyrical construction, a great narrative to the piece, very enjoyable and approachable song. Interesting structuring on behalf of the vocal medley. I thought it was wonderful balancing the roles. And not only balancing, because you had a male and a female vocalist taking center stage, at least in the chorus songs, and working in association of one another on each of those choruses, but the roles switched depending on who's singing the opening verse. I think it was just a wonderful idea that I oftentimes seen played around with. And the song, I think, had a great riff introduction, thorough pacing, strong emphasis. Yeah, somebody who's a big metalhead, obviously the aggressive side appeals more to me, even though there's a pretty good mix, I'd say, in regards to people approach metal and rock generally. There's some people who prefer maybe a softer direction, and others who prefer the more aggressive. I tend to lead toward the latter, but I do keep an open door, perhaps, and I have a good share of tracks that float around in that field. Silent King, I think, exists in a great middle space, of definitely banking into the more aggressive, at least on the metal side. Easily appealed to me. I can't wait to hear more from their work. And I hope you enjoy them as much as I have. Again, like I said, that was a good first introduction. And I really hope the same is true with Breaking Point. I'm going to imagine it would be. The Curse was. Let's take a look at this track and see what we think about it. And similar to the first song we consulted, we have a lyric video provided, so you're not only just getting the piece, you're also getting the visualizer, as well as the accompanying message of the piece. And for some of you might not be familiarized on how I format my music coverage on this channel, I try and accommodate listener taste however I can, and so I oftentimes provide the lyrics manually in the song. Sometimes, though, it's a provision on the artist that they offer lyrical videos, which saves me a lot of time, and I can get the videos up sooner, which I appreciate. Now, if I'm not willing to provide the lyrics manually, it just takes a lot of time. So in this case, I admire the provision Silent King has given me quite a bit. It's going to make the editing process a lot faster. Anyway, let's consult this piece together. Breaking Point. Working off of The Curse. Again, great foundation. Let's add on to it. Okay, be wary. I'm okay. But if you're not, go uninformed. Nice. Really engaging so far. Great vocal addition there. Works very well. I like the waverance. That riff pattern, though, the accelerated pacing's great. I love this is formatted like a bunch of closed captions, like an old VHS tape. That's great. I like the softer presence here. The good shift, even though it definitely feels unified to the piece. That's beautiful. Wicked growl, and I love it. It's so rich. I have to ask, is that the lead female vocalist singing? I think it is. Because the guys had a different. Another recognition name I can add to the list. I'll get to what I mean in a minute. If it's the case. I think I'm tapping into what the song's singing about too. I'm not sure. It could have a broad application, but some of these analogies and the wording are pretty familiar to me, and I like what I'm seeing here. We still have another 2 minutes to go. That's great. I was looking ahead to the lyrics. I'm like, I guess I went to the wrong spot. I was like, is it already ended? I guess we're going to do a refrain here coming up, I think. Nice intermission here. I like this. It's a fitting pause.
This is not the end.
This is formatted so well.
Just take a breath and let
It's very creative.
life begin. This is not the end. Just take a breath.
She's got a wonderful voice. I like what I'm hearing here a lot from everybody. Good entrance. Perfect transition here. That's wonderful. I love it. I like how bass inflection a lot too. It works so well. Great construction of these chorus sections. Wonderful. I'm assuming one more measure here. This is great. Just let's sink in. I love that this is another example of specifically, again, I think I'm right on this. They are, I would believe so, just reading the message of the songs and maybe some of the interaction. If it is true that this is a Christian metal group, and I really believe they were, again, from what I read, or if not, I would say they're Christian adjacent, very much so, because it's a message that has a resonance. I truly feel that they were, though, at least when I read it. If this is the case, this is another example of fresh Christian artists that are maybe, again, emerging, but boast a talent when they first arrive on scene. I've said this, for example, with, let's say in the past, Chit Chat. Even though that group had an advantage because I know the members personally, I've met them twice. We came from the same hometown. And that was a bit different from like Christian metal. That was more like Christian electronic pop. They're pretty good though. I would recommend. I have one more song to look at from them anyway, but Chit Chat, I've covered Talking to Myself. That's a song. Check that one out. It's pretty good. Covered it months ago. But going off memory here, Zana, Nesdam. Not currently, as I'm filming this, not everything is published yet. I'm working on it. Yes, those are. I guess that's a prelude to other artists I've covered that are coming. It's another example in terms of fresh introduction, specifically in the Christian rock and metal scene, from groups that don't have the largest followings yet, or are still establishing their name, or maybe more so in the alternative rock indie space. It's another one that, again, like many. Even in some past entries of groups maybe I haven't consulted the public on this channel, I'm Empire, for example. I know there's others maybe I'm forgetting about. Yeah, there's some names. I'll recommend some in post if I can, think of them at the time. But this is another group where it's like from, your first entrance track. I'm like, good bass line, let's see where you go from here. It's just it's a wonderful foundation for me. This is much heavier than The Curse. It's much more metal. The screaming is excellent. I love the growls on both vocalists. And I'm assuming in the second, I think there's a second verse, right? Yeah. I'm assuming that's the woman. I have a special place in my heart for ladies in the rock scene who can scream, and there are plenty, again, in the Christian metal scene specifically, or more broadly. I guess in connection to when I mentioned this example on The Curse, Ad infinitum is a good connection point to make. I don't remember exactly what I said there. It was about the feeling of experiencing fresh introductions as a collaborative experience. And I'll reiterate again, I love being able to have that be something that's present on the channel. It's one thing to listen to tracks on your own, but you just don't enjoy it as much. And I'm not saying everybody has to go into the content creator space, but I have found, if I could provide a recommendation, if you're somebody that likes to experience music with others, and you just don't feel that connection in your solitude, as great as the tracks you might be listening to are, but you miss that feeling of being able to enjoy a song collaboratively, I will say from experience, it emboldens the process to provide an opportunity for others to experience such works alongside you, even if maybe you're on distant continents, or you're on the digital space and somebody else is watching you behind a phone screen. I get it's different dynamics than it would be in your personal life, but it's a fun experience. It really is, and it absolutely heightens the enjoyment, at least for me. I made that case, as I said, with the ad infinitum example. And I guess that was a great connection point to make, because the vocalist here, speaking again in regards to the screaming side, she sounds a lot like Melissa Bonney, their front lady. Like, really impressive tonality here. I truly think that's her. It didn't sound to me like the man. Again, I wish I knew their names. I don't. Next track comes out, I will be better informed, I guess, on that front. Really impressive to me. Beautiful presence, in my opinion. Just captivating. Great pacing of the lyrics. Great wavering, too, in the vocal set, especially in the chorus sections, towards, I think, the third line. Hang on a second, let me see if I can pull this up. If I can stay alive just long enough to see light, I think it's that section. The vocal shifts. Wonderful introduction. That thick riff in the beginning, love it, and how that was mapped all the way through. Just wonderful. That's I pull to in metal immediately, and it's like just that frenetic pacing speaks volumes in my appreciation. Breaking Point is an easy repeat listen. And the narrative, too, is pretty good. I'm assuming this is talking about, based on familiarity of other songs, I don't know if this is true. Again, I'm operating absent of a declared envisioning by the artists. And if that's been provided, feel free to chime in down below on it to see if maybe there's a similar baseline. You could read this, I think, to a couple different extremes. Just giving it, perusing again. Past regrets, shame, reflection, different life struggles, whatever they may be, because that's certainly universal for everybody. I get a vibe, though, specifically in the language. I'm not afraid to face what hell surrounds me. That's a bit different from usually what I hear in terms of word structure. I like that. Unique presence there. Well, where was the one line about, darkness? The darkness is what's killing me? No, I don't know if it was that. It was somewhere. The impression, maybe it was that. I'm just forgetting about it at the moment. The breaking point is getting closer, point of no return. Never step and I'm content to let the bridges burn. Perhaps that. It's just my own twisted design. I made this. Yeah, it feels like it's somebody sitting in a state of shame or regret. We all deal with, negative emotions in different seasons of our lives, and maybe, presently even. I can certainly relate. I get a vibe of depression. I don't know if this is true. Again, like I said, music is very subjective in interpretation. Different listeners approach different songs in regards to their application individually. The language here, though, feels very reminiscent to other songs that are structured that way. It's very much internalized. An ever war-inducing panic raging in my head. The breaking point's getting closer. It just sounds to me like, again, it's pushing towards that direction. And this is sort of like a therapeutic song to consult emotions along the depressive line for people who perhaps are struggling. I know people that are dealing with depression, personally, and it's, from my understanding, it's an arduous struggle. I've considered in the past, maybe I have, though I hesitate, as a manner of respect. I don't necessarily... I would say for me, I've dealt with emotions that are alongside the depressive line, but I don't want to necessarily associate a diagnosis if there's not reason to, as a manner of respect to those who are truly going through depression. And, people speak these days like, oh, I'm depressed, or, usually the baseline is someone saying like, oh, I have depression because I'm in a depressed mood. And it's like, I don't necessarily want to risk providing a false diagnosis where no such condition exists, right? So I abstain from labeling myself that way, but I'm familiarized with a lot of the emotions that can emerge from an experience like that. And I read this, that's where my mind goes, even though, again, I could see plenty of arguments segueing on different routes. If, again, an individual listener said, well, I resonate with the song this way, an argument could easily be made, I feel. I wonder if I'm on the right page of it. I don't know. It's just, again, like I said, it's similar in the writing structure that it feels to me like a cathartic treatment on someone going through depression. And that restorative vision. That's important to give a hopeful presence to a song like This Is Not the End, Just Take a Breath and Let Your Life Begin, with a fun rock mood. I think it's a great piece. And like I've said, 2 tracks in thus far in my emergence with familiarity of Silent King's work, I think they set a great baseline for themselves. And as, again, like I said, an establishing band, it's something I see predominantly, maybe not always, not routinely, but in many of the groups I've consulted, especially on longtime favorites of mine, I've followed them since the beginning of their, establishing days. Icon for Hire was like this. I Am Empire was like this. Nesdam as well was a very recent acquisition to that familiarity, as well as, to some extent, Zana. I dug back into her music library to catch up and to get a good exposure, but you listen to artists when they emerge on the scene, and immediately it's like they have a clear sense of identity they want to establish. Silent King, no difference there. I think it's quite fitting to put them under that banner, and to see them, to humor the possibility of how they're going to evolve. as a band, I can't wait to hear more offerings. And I know, as I said, they're working on an EP currently. I will definitely engage with that when it releases. When is that? Let me see. I don't think they've provided, I don't know if they provided a date here. I'm looking on their Instagram page just really quickly. I know it said they were working, 5 weeks ago, okay, they posted something about that on their Instagram, that they're working on it. So I'm assuming it's still in the germination stage. I can't wait to hear more. I think Breaking Point's another great addition to my library. It's an easy repeat listen. I can't wait to put it on the car, by the way. It's going to sound great in my VW. With the sound quality, oh, and I have a tendency to turn it up, like, probably louder than I should with the windows open, but I partly do that to help expose artists. You know, if I'm passing by some of our driver who's like, hey, who's that artist? No, it's something funny that I do. I'm like, any way you can do it, right? And I oftentimes do it with, let's say, lesser known names. Not necessarily intentionally. It may just be because, you know, I'm in a mood, or I'm like, I'm really enjoying this artist, and I just, you know, want to share it, but it's not directly like, hey, I'm trying to influence other drivers, or even, you know, provide for distracted driving. Okay, maybe I should consider that. Anyway, it'll be, oh, it's going to sound great in terms of sound quality. Breaking Point is pretty rich. So is The Curse. But I really like this song. I mean, aggressive metal, easily up the road for me. I love it. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below as well. For those of you who, again, this is, you know, perhaps whether it's a first-time consultation of their work, or Silent Kings, or you're familiar with the band. Whatever angle you come from and what your thoughts are on the piece, I'd love to hear that down below if you wish to offer it. Can't wait to hear more from this group. 2 entries in. I'm having a great time with them. I'm grateful that I discovered them as well. You know, again, like I said before, very much a thank you to the band for that follow. I wouldn't have discovered you otherwise. I mean, no, I probably would have, but not as quickly as I did. And I got a vibe, you know, from them. Like, there's, again, like I said, there's that feeling you get with certain artists, especially on just on a thought. I'm happy to say that Silent King exceeded my expectations. And I thought they'd be pretty good. I'm like, Christian metal, okay, I'm game, let's hear it. And The Curse and Breaking Point have really impressed me. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.